Homer's Odyssey, Book 3, continued. Nestor is speaking here and talking about the Trojans, the Greeks' fate after Troy. And has just mentioned Athena or Minerva. By whose help she betwixt the brother kings let fall contention, who in council met in vain and timeless, when the sun was set, and all the Greeks called that came charged with wine. Yet then the kings would utter their design, and why they summoned? Menelaus, he put all in mind of home, and cried, to sea. But Agamemnon stood on contraries, whose will was that they should stay and sacrifice whole hecatombs to Pallas, to forego her high wrath to them. Fool, that did not know she would not so be won, for not with ease the eternal gods are turned from what they please. So they, divided, on foul language stood. The Greeks in huge rout rose, their wine heat blood, two ways affecting. And that night's sleep too, we turned to study in either other's woe, when Jove besides made ready woes enow. Morn came, we launched, and in our ships did stow our goods, and fair girt women. Half our men the people's guide Atrides did contain, and half, being now aboard, put forth to sea. A most free gale gave all ships prosperous way. God settled then the huge whale-bearing lake, and Tenedos we reached, where, for time's sake, we did divine rites to the gods. But Jove, inexorable still, bore yet no love to our return, but did again excite a second sad contention, that turned quite a great part of us back to sea again. Which were the abundant in all counsels man, your matchless father, who, to gratify the great Atrides, back to him did fly. But I fled all, with all that followed me, because I knew God studied misery to hurl among us. With me likewise fled martial Tydides. I, the men he led, gat to go with him. Winds our fleet did bring to Lesbos, where the yellow-headed king, though late, yet found us. And we put to choice a tedious voyage. If we sail should hoist above rough Chios, left on our left hand to the isle of Syria, or that rugged land sail under, and for windy Mimas steer. We asked of God that some ostent might clear our cloudy business, who gave us sign and charge that all should, in a middle line, the sea cut for Euboea, that with speed our long-sustained infortune might be freed. Then did a whistling wind begin to rise, and swiftly flew we through the fishy skies, till to Gerestus we in night were brought, where, though through the broad sea since we safe had wrought, at Neptune's altars many solid thighs of slaughtered bulls we burned for sacrifice. The fourth day came, when Tydeus' son did greet the haven of Argos with his complete fleet. But I for Pylos straight steered on my course, nor ever left the wind his foreright force, since God foresent it first. And thus I came, dear son, to Pylos, uninformed by fame, nor no one saved by fate or overcome, whom I have heard of since, set here at home. As fits, thou shalt be taught, not left unshown. The expert spearmen, every Myrmidon, led by the brave heir of the mighty-souled, unpeered Achilles, safe of home got hold, safe Philoctetes, Paeon's famous seed, and safe Idomeneus. His men led to his home Crete, who fled the armed field, of yet none the sea from him withheld. Atrides, you have both heard, though ye be his far-off dwellers, what an end had he, done by Aegisthus to a bitter death, who miserably paid for forced breath. Atrides leaving a good son, that died, in blood of that deceitful parricide, his wreakful sword. And thou, my friend, as he for this hath his fame, the like spirit in thee assume at all parts. Fair and great, I see, thou art in all hope. Make it good to the end, that after times as much may thee commend. He answered, O thou greatest grace of Greece, Orestes made that Greek his masterpiece, and him the Greeks will give a master praise, verse finding him to last all after days. And would to God the gods would favor me with his performance, that my injury, done by my mother's wooers, being so foul, I might revenge upon them every soul, who, pressing me with contumelies, dare such things as past the power of utterance are. But heaven's great powers have graced my destiny with no such honor. Both my sire and I are born to suffer everlastingly. Because you name those wooers, friends, said he, report says many such, in spite of thee wooing thy mother in thy house, commit the ills thou namest. But say, proceedeth it from willing thee to bear so foul a foil? Or from thy subjects' hate that wish thy spoil, and will not aid thee, since their spirits rely against thy rule on some grave augury? What know they, but at length thy father may come, and with violence their violence pay, or he alone, or all the Greeks with him? But if Minerva now did so esteem thee, as thy father in times past, whom, past all measure, she with glorious favors graced, amongst the Trojans, where we suffered so, oh, I did never see in such clear show the gods so grace a man as she to him. To all our eyes appeared in all her trim. If so, I say, she would be pleased to love, and that her mind's care thou so much couldst move, as did thy father, every man of these would lose in death their seeking marriages. O father, answered he, you make amaze, seize me throughout. Beyond the height of phrase you raise expression. But 'twill never be that I shall move in any deity so blessed an honor. Not by any means, if hope should prompt me, or blind confidence, the god of fools, or every deity should will it, for 'tis past my destiny. The burning-eyed dame answered, what a speech has passed the teeth guard nature gave to teach fit question of thy words before they fly. God easily can, when to a mortal eye he's furthest off, a mortal satisfy, and does the more still. For thy cared-for sire I rather wished that I might home retire, after my sufferance of a world of woes, far off, and then my glad eyes might disclose the day of my return, then straight retire, and perish standing by my household fire, as Agamemnon did that lost his life by false Aegisthus and his falser wife. For death to come at length, 'tis due to all, nor can the gods themselves, when fate shall call their most loved man, extend his vital breath beyond the fixed bounds of abhorred death. Mentor, said he, let's dwell no more on this, although in us the sorrow pious is. No such return as we wish fates bequeath my erring father, whom a present death the deathless have decreed. I'll now use speech that tends to other purpose, and beseech instruction of grave Nestor, since he flows past shore in all experience, and knows the sleights and wisdoms, to whose height aspire others, as well as my commended sire, whom fame reports to have commanded 3 ages of man, and doth in sight to me show like the immortals. Nestor, the renown of old Neleus, make the clear truth known, how the most great in empire, Atreus' son, sustained the act of his destruction. Where then was Menelaus? How was it that false Aegisthus, being so far unfit a match for him, could his death so enforce? Was he not then in Argos? And, or his course with men so left, to let a coward breathe spirit enough to dare his brother's death? I'll tell thee truth and all, fair son, said he. Right well was this event conceived by thee. If Menelaus in his brother's house had found the idle liver with his spouse arrived from Troy, he had not lived, nor dead had the digged heap poured on his lustful head, but fowls and dogs had torn him in the fields far off of Argos. Not a dame it yields had given him any tear, so foul his fact showed even to women. Us Troy's wars had racked to every sinew sufferance, while he in Argos' uplands lived, from those works free, and Agamemnon's wife with force of word flattered and softened, who at first abhorred a fact so infamous. The heavenly dame a good mind had, but was in blood to blame. There was a poet, to whose care the king his queen committed, and in everything when he from Troy went, charged him to apply himself in all guard to her dignity. But when strong fate so wrapped in her effects, that she resolved to leave her fit respects, into a desert isle her guardian led. There left, the rapine of the vultures fed, then brought he willing home his will's one prize. On sacred altars offered many thighs, hung in the gods' fanes many ornaments, garments in gold, that he the vast events of such a labor to his wish had brought, as neither fell into his hope nor thought. At last from Troy sailed Sparta's king and I, both holding her untouched, and that his eye might see no worse of her, when both were blown to sacred Sunium of Minerva's town, the goodly promontory, with his shaft severe augur Apollo slew him that did steer Atrides' ship, and as he the stern did guide, and she the full speed of her sail applied. He was a man that nations of men excelled in safe guide of a vessel when a tempest rushed in on the ruffled seas. His name was Phrontis Onotorides. And thus was Menelaus held from home, whose way he thirsted so to overcome, to give his friend the earth, being his pursuit, and all his exequies to execute. But sailing still the wine-hued seas to reach some shore for fit performance, he did fetch the steep mount of the Malians, and there with open voice offended Jupiter, proclaimed the journey his repugnant mind, and poured the puffs out of a shrieking wind, that nourished billows heightened like to hills, and with the fleet's division fulfills his hate proclaimed, upon a part of Crete casting the navy, where the sea waves meet rough Dardanus, and where the Sidons live. There is a rock on which the sea doth drive, bare and all broken, on the confines set of Gortys, that the dark seas likewise fret, and hither sent the south a horrid drift of waves against the top. Then was the left of that torn cliff as far as Festus' strand, a little stone the great sea's rage did stand. The men here driven scaped hard the ship's sore shocks, the ships themselves being racked against the rocks, save only 5, that blue forecastles bore, which wind and water cast on Egypt's shore. When he, there victualling well, and store of gold aboard his ships brought, his wild way did hold, and to other languaged men was forced to roam. Mean space Aegisthus made sad work at home, and slew his brother, forcing to his sway Atrides' subjects, and did 7 years lay his yoke upon the rich Mycenaean state. But in the 8th, from his affrighting fate, divine Orestes home from Athens came, and what his royal father felt, the same he made the false Aegisthus groan beneath. Death evermore is the reward of death.